Hey YouTube, just starting 5623 here. Gonna give you a quick rundown of the regional I went to yesterday in Louisville, Kentucky at Bluegrass Magic Shop. But first, I just found out that if you are using your camera right in front of your computer, the screen is kind of reflective, so you can figure out where you need to keep your camera. But anyway, I'm just gonna touch on the events. Some of this is my opinion, some of it is information I gathered. It might not be entirely correct. If it's not, I'm sorry. The first thing I want to touch on is the turnout. Konami told the event staff that they were not expecting over 120 people. We ended up with 187 players. So many more players that the store actually had to dig into their own stock of Star Strike Blast so they could give the entrants the 5 packs that they're supposed to get. I don't understand that from Konami. Just give an abundance of the product. They can't know how many people are going to show up at a regional. Philly Luna actually ended up coming up the Louisville regional. I mean, you never know how far people are going to travel, especially during like the holiday times. They might just be on trips randomly because they don't have school. How prepared the staff was for that event. Now, they said they were prepared to seat 256 players. I would ask them to define the word prepared. Because prepared to me is there are tables set up, chairs set up for 256 players before they even open their doors. That was not true. They actually got tables out of the back and chairs out of the back and set them up after everybody had already entered the building and like most of the people already had been registered. The tables that they did have set up were really nice. They had the numbers inked into the table. They were white tables, so they're inked in black. It's pretty easy to see the numbers and stuff, but the only problem with that was when people started sitting down and put their deck mats, you couldn't actually see the numbers. I'd probably rather have the tables inked though than like stood up cardboard pieces and stuff, because it diminishes the room you have on the table. I just didn't agree with them saying they were prepared for 256 players, because they really weren't. And they just set up enough tables for the people that entered the tournament to stay. I saw people playing on the floor and stuff all day because they didn't have anywhere else to sit. They should have just set up an abundance of chairs and tables, if you ask me. But they really couldn't have been prepared for that many people probably. I didn't expect there to be that many people. I expected there to be around 100, 150 max. And we ended up with 187. Next I want to touch on the judging staff. It's my belief that if you respect people and just ask them to do something, that they will do it. Most people have a problem with authority. I have a problem with authority. I would rather at the announcements be asked to do some of the stuff. I mean, the head judge was just really kind of trying to exert his authority. I'm not saying that's bad, but you know, it's just nicer when you're not really authoritative, when you're just a little bit nicer. The other thing, I heard complaints about the judging staff from the locals that were up there, and I mean, that didn't make me feel confident about hardly any rulings all day, and I'm sure they were telling other people that too. And one thing I noticed was the head judge tended to defer to one of the lower judges. I'm thinking that was because of the local people complaining about him being the head judge, but I might be wrong. I would actually been completely fine with this if he knew that his subordinate judge was more knowledgeable. But don't let all the other players know this, because on multiple accounts I saw him go straight to the judge I'm talking about. In front of everybody. Just don't do it in front of everybody. Do it where nobody can see. But he didn't do it. I mean, that was unprofessional if you ask me. But overall, I mean, it wasn't a well-run event, but it was the first event they were having there. It was a new store. I mean, I'll give them props, I guess. But I mean, it could have been ran better in just so many ways. They took extra time that they didn't need to take in between rounds sometimes. At the start, they took a little bit extra time. I didn't really like where the pairings were. I thought they could have organized that a little bit better. The round clock was kind of small, and we didn't actually have a time, like a clock for time, like the actual time of day in there. I mean, we all have cell phones, so it's not that big a deal, but it'd been nice to have that. Other than that, I mean, it was their first event, so I mean, I gotta give them some slack. But I'm sure that they'll improve it next time, and it'll be a lot better event. But that's just the rundown of the event I went to yesterday. Drew's out.